Hello, hello. Happy Friday, everyone. That's right. We made it through another quarantine COVID-19 week. Congratulations. Hey, Ammon, how are you?
I'm doing great up here. It's been a nice sunny day in Chicago. I'm smiling. It's Friday, so
Yeah.
excited. Yeah, happy.
Awesome. Well, we have an action-packed show today with two really, really talented colorists today. So why don't we talk a little bit about what our viewers can expect?
Yeah, so today is all about vivid color, and we have none other than our pro team member, Sean Godard, and special guest, Chrystofer Benson, on today to talk about all things vivid color when it comes to placement, when it comes to strategically placing it for maybe an award ceremony or an award competition, or how to make it more relevant for your in-salon guests. So with that, I think we should just dive right in. What do you think, Nick?
Let's do it. Let's intro a little video we have here of Mr. Sean Godard.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Hello, guys. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Sean,
So
my
good to
main
see
man.
you.
How are you doing in Brooklyn?
Doing great in Brooklyn. We're excited for a beautiful weekend. It's the little things you look forward to right now, and we're going to have a nice, sunny, warm weekend. So
Nice.
I know. It's actually so much fun that we're going to see you do some hair. I've been so intrigued with your cooking skills these days that now we're going to see you cook up some color.
I agree.
don't worry. We've been cooking up plenty of hair, too, behind the scenes also.
I love it. I know.
You're always staying busy. I love that, Sean. So tell us today, when we gave you the topic, I love this because a lot of people may not know that when we come up with these topics, I like to give kind of carte blanche to the attendees or to our guests on the show about what do you want to show based on the subject or the topic, because I feel like that way it keeps it authentic to what you feel is relevant and what you feel like you have most to share with the attendees. So in the realm of vivid colors, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, specifically what I want to talk about is about more pastels and more muted, almost kind of metallic tones. So those are definitely two things that I'm really obsessed with and I love to create and use different formulas to create with that. So that's kind of going to be the focus of what I'm going to talk about today.
Awesome. And then, Sean, as you're thinking about, your plan with your formulas, how do you determine where you want to go with it? Whether you want to use semi-permanent or demi-permanent, when do you know which way you want to go?
Well, that's a great point to bring up because it really does help determine what the end result look is going to be. So oftentimes, semi-permanents, those are going to be your direct dyes, really vivid, really vibrant shades, and usually you're not mixing them with a developer, right? Today, I'm going to be talking about working with Shades EQ. So Shades EQ is one of our #1 demi-permanent colors, has been for several years. And what I love about it is that it actually has a mixture of direct and oxidative dyes. So what that's going to tell me as a finish is, one, I'm going to get a longer lasting result. And then two, I'm going to be able to customize a lot more because there's a lot more colors available in those families. So being able to have tones that have natural in it if I want to, or things to be able to mute and add more ash or more smoky effects in it, we have a bit more creativity in the Shades Q line.
Awesome.
Yeah, so Sean, so what are you going to talk to us about? Because one of the things that I love specifically about the type of work that you do is that you love to pick, and I don't want to speak for you, but it's been my experience as bros on the pro team member, that you love to do vibrant, vivid colors, but really done in a beautiful, wearable way. So I would love to hear what you have planned for us in terms of a couple placements that get girls that aren't necessarily looking for something that's crazy rock or punk, but they still want to have that pop of that vivid color.
No, and I love that you said that because that definitely is my taste. I think everyone can wear something. It's about figuring out how to place it and what the actual tone should be on their skin or with their current hair. So there's 2 benchmarks that I have done for you to show you this same technique and how different it can really look depending on how you place it. So the first one that I want to show you is this girl here. Let's see if you can see her. So she's kind of got like some smoky blues. Some grays in there, some platinum. So this is a mixture of tones in there. And I'm going to show you how to create that. It's bolder on this one, so you can definitely see the vividness of the stripes and the linear nature to it. We've seen that like kind of chunkier hair color has been coming back right now. So it's about being able to see the definition and the contrast. Now, what I want to show you is the same technique, how much it changes if we just change the colors one, and then it's about where you place it. So this was the same technique that was done on the whole head, but here just in the fringe. So you can make it really wearable depending on the type of guest that you have.
Really pretty.
That's really cool. And Sean, I cringed at admitting it to you, but I have agreed. I do notice that chunkier highlight is coming back in. I was like, that was what I was doing for like days and days in the salon when I first got out of hair school, like Kelly Clarkson.
Yeah.
I used to call them the railroad track highlights. And it's like, I have to get into like being okay with it. Like, like fashion repeats itself to a degree, right?
A little. I'm still going to argue that it's a little bit different than what we were doing in the 90s. We're not seeing that racing stripes all the way to the root. I remember the client sitting in my chair. She's like, why don't I feel it wet? I'm like, because it's in a foil. She goes, but then I'm going to have roots, and I don't want roots. I'm like, oh, geez.
So tell us the difference. Yeah, Sean, what's the difference between like what it was then and what it is now?
Well, I think what it was then was it was definitely a bit more primitive, we'll say.
I
think the biggest thing was we didn't really think about the stitches that we were putting like inside the foil, for example, or the angle of where we were placing it. Everything was just going like straight back to back, and giving it really bold chunks. So to create that kind of inspiration, but with a modern, more fresher approach, it's thinking about where the lines of where we're placing that color, what we're doing inside of each foil. And that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to change the look. And also, today we've got so many great different ways of blending color towards the scalp that we're not getting that, like, you can still do 3 back-to-back slices if you wanted to, but have that blended root so it doesn't look so 1999, if you will.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I'll show you a little bit of the technique.
I was just going to say, show us a little bit about how to get there and what you've been doing.
Perfect. So the technique that I just showed you the 2 looks for is called radial. And so why it's called that, really we're just going to be simply radiating around the head. What you want to think about when you're doing this technique, I'm going to demonstrate it for you in the front area of the head. And just for visual sake that you can really see, I'm going to be using just colored conditioners today so that you can see it right away. Because like I said, I was working with Shades EQ, and that is direct and oxidative dye. So sometimes it takes a little bit to see the actual color that it's going to be. So what I'm going to do is work through the front area. And I think here's another thing that's important to remember. When you're doing vivid colors, it doesn't need to be the entire head. So pick a focal point or an area where you want to see it. In this particular case, what I'm doing is I'm actually going above the round of the head and dropping out the bottom. Reason being, all of this hair that I color on the top is where there's going to be movement in the shape. All of this hair always just hangs down naturally. So therefore, I could just do it one solid color and it's all going to be good. So any interest you want to create is going to be above the round of the head. Now, what I'm going to do now that I have that section out is I'm going to start by taking my first section completely vertically. And then you're going to determine out of the colors which one is going to go first. So I like to do this technique with 3 colors. And if you want to make the look go even softer, like we were talking about, then you can actually use the same root color on all of the sections. So let's take the first foil and I'll place that in just like so, completely vertical. Now I'll make sure that you guys can see that. So I'm going to spin her around for you. So now let's say that we're going to do the root in violet tone. So remember, I'm just using our violet conditioner from Redken. This is Blondage, just for you to be able to see what it looks like. So I'll start by placing the root. Then I'll go to my second color. So in this case, it would be like a smoky blue. And then I'll paint that all the way down. So that first one's really simple. It's just a standard slice. And the good news is that there's also not going to be a ton of crazy intricate sectioning on this. So you don't have to remember very much. Everything is going to be working with the head form and the round of the head. So now that I have that first one in, I want you guys to see the next piece here that I go to grab. So most often when people try and do like any radial color techniques that are radiating out from one point, what's going to happen is people think that the section always needs to come all the way back to the top. And the reality is with the round of the head shape, some of your sections, so for example, this next section, might not make its way all the way to the top. You're going to notice that it'll be a little bit wider at the bottom and like thinner at the top. So what I'll do now is I can switch to an alternate color palette. So I'll now place the foil, but to keep that continuation, we'll always use the same color in the root area.
So Sean, what you actually just did was shown the difference between the 1990s color placement and today's color placement. Just by a shift of your, orbital shape up there, totally changes the whole look of the color.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Question that's coming up for me, Sean, and I'm sorry, just to go through, as you're going through, so you're using two different colors. Now, I know in the beginning you talked about like selecting different shades for different reasons. Yeah. Can you select two different families in that same foil, or do you advise just to stick with one, like just with shades if you're going to have them meeting up, or just with a vibrant tone? What do you recommend?
That's a good question. So if you were doing this on a guest that, let's say, had a great coverage issue, or let's be more real about this, what's going to be happening when people start getting back into the salon is we're going to have more corrective work. And the thing that's the reality for these vivid haired guests is sometimes it takes hours of time to be able to get their hair light enough. So what I think about this technique could be great is you could go in and actually do a root shadow, whether that be with a permanent color if it's for gray coverage, or semi-permanent to continue it through getting the blending. But then you can take care of kind of killing two birds with one stone, the root coverage and the texture.
Love that.
Yeah, I do too. Hey, and for everybody watching, don't forget, if you have any questions for Sean, please put them in the comments. If we don't get to them on the show, Sean is going to be a champ and go back in and make sure he answers all those questions for you.
100%. So basically, all this technique is going to do is continue working around, trying to hit that point, remembering not everything has to go all the way up. So the easiest way to think about it is this, and I explain this to the students in class when I used to teach classes. Can't wait to get back on the road. And so think about this: if you were watching like a parade and like a marching band, let's say, is going down the street, and they're marching, and they go to make a turn suddenly. The person that's on the inside corner versus the outside corner, this person has to walk way more to get around to that turn versus this person just kind of marching on the spot. So think about that when you're doing this color. This side from the bottom has to walk around a lot further than this spot here at the top. That will keep you on point, keeping everything very soft and blended, avoiding that 1999 highlight look.
So I love this analogy, but I really want to figure out at what point were you sipping on a cocktail, thinking about a marching band, and your explanation?
I could tell by the smirk on your face.
I was like, it's almost like a pie shape or a pinwheel, but like, sure, a marching band.
I'm like, where's he go? I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, uh-oh, where's he going with the marching band? But it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, it's a good analogy.
That must have been a fun night.
It was when the world was still normal, right? The last thing I want to show you guys is to know when you're doing it right. You're going to notice that the foils are going to start to fan out. So as I work my way around the head, the foil should continually be moving on each side and working itself all the way around the head. You do that, you'll have a great blended dimensional fashion color.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
I love it. Well, I can never get enough of your techniques. Honestly, Ammon and I talk about this all the time, that you're one of our favorite colors in the world. It's just, you're so efficient, but yet you have such a beautiful eye for color placement and tone. And speaking of that, we actually have a really amazing video of a model that you did, Leoka, who's like she's like part of our team now. But that image, I think, is one of all of our favorites. And I think Ammon nailed it in the beginning when he said, you are so good at doing fashion colors in a really tasteful commercial way. So this video is really going to show you, if you're afraid of fashion color, this is how you can do it and look sophisticated and elegant, and it's just really on point. So let's roll to that.
Thanks, Sean.
See, so beautiful. Always so beautiful, always on point, and always a pleasure to have you on this show.
Well, thank you guys so much. It's been great, and I hope to connect with you guys soon.
Very, very soon.
We'll see you soon, Sean.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
So fun. Well, it's always great having Sean on the show, but I'll tell you, from one amazing colorist to another one, our next guest will not disappoint, that's for sure. Mr. Chrystofer Benson. We're so excited to have him on the show today, but before we bring him on, let's take a look at a little video with him. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Good. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for being on the show tonight.
Happy to. Good to see you.
Chrystofer Benson. Old friend,
Mr.
buddy.
Carver, how are you? Yeah, man.
Doing good.
I don't know about
doing
old, but I don't know about old. We're not getting old. We're still holding down.
Dear friend,
Yeah,
dear
how
friend.
are you guys? You guys?
Good.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Doing well.
I love it. How are you?
Doing good. Great.
Good.
You know,
Good to see you.
Chris, I was thinking the last time I saw you in person was Destination. I feel like that was years ago at this point.
It does seem like years ago, right? I was just thinking about that. It's crazy to think that, we had a whole year planned of different things that, of course, I would have seen both of you at.
Yeah.
And it's definitely changed a little. A
little
Slightly.
word.
Just a little bit. It's changed a little bit.
To say the least. Well, thankfully, we have these opportunities where we can at least connect and laugh and
Absolutely.
hang out a little bit, for sure.
I think they're super important to be having, for sure.
Yep. So, Chrystofer, talk to us a little bit about. I know that you're well known, for all of your color work. I want to just give a little sneak before we get into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be doing today.
Sure.
Why you wanted to join us for this particular episode about vivid color and what it means to you in terms of a colorist overall.
I think I love all color, right? But I think the vivid stuff has just gotten so much. Press and play that's what ends up, you get known for. So, I think that there's such a great way to express with color. And I think that the biggest thing for me is really knowing how to do it with sophistication. I think you can do beautiful, beautiful bright tones, but I think it needs to be done with, great technique behind it, thought process put behind it. But I don't think it has to be complicated either. And I think that sometimes I think when you see, all the colors together, people take that as it's a really complicated thing and a lot of work. And I think it's how you go about it. And I'd like to take things on a grand scale, but simplify it as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you nailed it on the head where you said some people look at it and then they think, it's so intricate, they don't even know where to begin. And I think that's what's cool is you've created a really nice roadmap and understanding of how to really divide and conquer, to place the color where you really want to see it, to match your haircuts. And you've done that really well with balancing out the marriage between cuts and colors.
Thank you, Nick. I think the biggest thing for me is, you got to be inspired. So, just going back, like a lot of things for me, I love art stuff, right? This is something that I saw over in Spain, in Madrid. But the things that I just thought this was super interesting. So a lot of it was based on like triangles, but also the fragments. So when you look at this year's Naha, a lot of stuff is all done in the triangles. So when I'm saying triangles, super, super simple, right? And then each one inside of that became what we did in that panel. So instead of complicating things, it's really, for me, like find this section. First, find the inspiration, because I think you got to be inspired with what you want to be doing. And then how does that translate into something that you can create with, but then I think also that can be super, super simple. And I think the same thing, these are bigger triangles that are through each of the sides, and then a smaller one up front. So same principle. And then I think what we're doing is really thinking about what's in each of these. And this can be done with vivids. I think it can be done with pastels. It can be done with reds, blondes. Sure. I think it's really about how to control the head, I think, is really more of the thing that I really thought out. And then, this one we're seeing all over. So these are the ones that kind of I want to recreate. But this is, we're seeing this all over for shows. But that's just a simple triangle in the front of this. And then everything done striation, vertically, so you really see what that is. So I don't really think to try and complicate things. I think, how do you make things a little bit more simple, but make it look sophisticated? And I think that's in the Naha realm, but I think that really goes to more of a commercial idea. What we do at Naha, I think then trickles down to become what we do in mainstream, what we're doing at Ulta, what we're doing in our salons. And I think that's really important as well. And I think the creative process, I sent a video to you guys, maybe we can share that, and then I'll come back and share a few of the things. But the creative process, I think, is super important. And we did one that was on Instagram the other day that really shows the creative process. So maybe we can share that, and then I'll walk you through a couple of things.
Awesome. Let's take a look.
So, Chrystofer, I love the creative process. I've been working with you for a long time, and you've inspired me with my creative process. I know it's different every time. And I'm going to step back just a little bit and mention, you kind of slid past the whole Naha realm and how Naha is used. I just want to take a quick second and hover around. Naha has been a pretty big deal for you in terms of owning this category. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I think that the thing that I think a lot of the viewers they see the Naha work that you do, and they want to do it, but then they're always like, so how does that translate to what I'm doing behind the chair? Because not every guest is like they're like, that's cool, that's not happening, right? So talk us through how that transition could go.
Totally. And I think that's really where most of us live, right? Is more in the commercial viability of it. So, when I think of where we went for the Naha stuff in the triangles, how do we take that and make that into something that's wearable today and every day? So still working off the idea. I love graffiti. I love street art. This is an art piece that was done for an installation. So for me, when we travel, one thing I always try and find is art and street art. So those are the two that I started to work off. Again, for me, it's inspiration. And then the next thing is that really worked for me when I started getting out of beauty school was I didn't understand color placement. And so for me, what I want to do is take the ideas of that and start to really think about where does color live. So I used to just take black and white photos and photocopy them, and start to lay the color in how I wanted to see that. So again, I'm going to start to work off that bit of a triangle. But then what this started to do was allow me to see it without trying on clients. Then what I did was started to share some of these little influences of color with the guests before I ever even got to try working actually on them, right? So, but what it did is it visually taught me how to see and think about where color laid. So I think it could be something very quick. This is now, it's so funny when you talk about like how many years, this is stuff I used to photocopy like Sassoon and Sorby and, the days when you didn't have work like this. My team actually did this for me. This is one of mine from this year, which I thought was just amazing. But I think the idea is that how do we pass this kind of stuff on? So going from that, just a simple influence, and we just keep it with the strand. So again, when we start to look at that, right, and just picking up, and I don't think inspiration is about picking up the entire thing. I think it's about picking up, areas. Right. So from that, then I would start to work on a technique. So then we start to think about end result with technique. So all it is a simple triangle. It's really done right up in the front, working with two tones, working with the blue-green and working with the mermaid teal, and then did a second triangle through the back. So short croppy cut, something that's definitely evocative of, kind of my brand, something strong with lots of internal movement as well. But I don't think it has to be everything on the head, and I don't think that's where color is heading. So when I think of like Naha and what's there, I think take the inspiration, take the aspect of it, but then find your commercial viability to it, and how do you take something from it and make it your own and what you do in your world.
You know what's so cool about that? Now, Chrystofer, I think we've worked together 20 years now, maybe. Is it that long?
Is it that long? Really?
I think it's probably 20 years.
Close. It's probably close. It's probably close.
The coolest part about that is here I'm listening to you talk and I'm like, oh damn, I'm gonna take that idea and play with it with the whole laying the color down to see it first and then coloring it in. Like it's such a no-brainer idea, but like I never thought of that.
I'm sure I'm not the first one that's done it. I'm sure I'm not the
you're
first
the one teaching me for it. So
I hadn't seen that before either. I was watching you color that and I was like, why didn't I do that? That's so smart.
That's genius.
No, I appreciate that. No, and I think it's I think that's what this industry is so cool about is like how do we share with each other? How do we make it something so simple? But how does that spark somebody to create interest in what they do? And I think if that's the thing that we can all do, in getting together and these types of things, which I think the Unveiling Beauty is amazing, and I'm so happy and honored to be a part of it to support you guys. But I think if we can do stuff like this in the industry and support what the bigger picture is, which is servicing our guests and getting back to business in the right way, then we've done it the right way.
I think you nailed it on the head. Well, and I'll tell you, at the end of the day, isn't it always to walk away feeling inspired? And, that's the name of the game. And that's what's cool. And that's what's cool about this time where we get to spend some time. Like, when's the last time you and I actually sat down and talked about color techniques, right? We're running.
I know.
We're running. So
it's crazy.
I love it. This has been amazing. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, well done. Definitely didn't disappoint as like ever, Chris. Just like bringing innovative ideas that look complex, but simplifying them. I think that a ton of our viewers are going to be like jazzed about what you delivered today. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today.
And
my pleasure.
I have to give the shameless plug. You couldn't do it without the Matrix Soul Color Cult portfolio.
No, it's true. Listen, there's no question. I mean, I don't think there's any question about which color I rock with. There's no question.
Right. For sure. No, awesome. Good to see you, my friend. I can't wait to see you in person.
Good to see you guys.
Be well.
Talk to you guys soon.
Talk to you soon. Thanks for hanging out with us, buddy.
All right. So, Ammon, fun show.
Yeah, right.
Just great talent, and that's the biggest thing that you and I talk about all the time is surrounding ourselves with really talented people, great people who love to share their craft and make other hairdressers and beauty professionals great at what they do too. So, this show really did just kind of put a
Yeah.
bow on it for me. Yeah,
I agree with it. It's that old saying, you are who you hang out with, right? And so surround
that's
yourself
for
with
sure.
people that you want to like take a bit of what they do and add it to your arsenal. So I think today was a great example of a collection of guys that nobody would be ashamed to do what they do very well. So
That's right.
honored to have them on the show.
So, speaking about people we hang out with, who we hanging out with on Monday?
So on Monday, we're going to shift it up a little bit. We're going to give some boys attention. We're going to do a men's grooming episode on
Oh,
Monday.
cool. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have our very own David Lopez, and then we have Beto, and we have Anthony from our design team. So they're going to
Great.
be sharing grooming, and I for those of you who aren't familiar with the word grooming, it's all things beauty when it comes to men's makeup. Particularly, we're going to be talking about like trimming and shaping beards, even if you weren't trained as a barber, just some tips and tricks to make sure that your beard maintenance and your men's grooming gets up to par. Because I think, Nick, you might agree, like that was something definitely during beauty school for me that we kind of went over like men's hair cutting, but like the grooming part, since it wasn't a barber, kind of got skipped over. So those things I think are really valuable next week.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait. Lots of attention for the guys coming on Monday. We have a whole list of things that we're going to share with
Another
you later
week.
in the week, but you're going to have to come back on Monday to find out all about it. So thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Have a wonderful weekend. I don't know about you, Ammon, but I think I hear a cocktail calling my name.
Oh, boy. Yep.
All right. You have a good weekend as well, and we'll see everyone soon. Take care.